It was,
you know,
yeah. It
what
was
happened with all
asked.
those bank statements that came out?
So the bank statements that came out obviously were not accurate. Obviously, everybody saw that. The 90K that she like showed me and all of that was obviously fake. Again, my bad for not looking into that better. It was a screenshot of proof and emails, and that's, I mean, so anyway, that was my fault. But then more came out. Also, somebody close sent me some screenshots today, and it looks like there's another lawyer that has been now a real attorney has been appointed to Jesse and Wade's case against the phone calls. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting as well. But she never said where any money went. I know there were emails that Coral like posted that was like a breakdown to Melissa, but she never acknowledged where the money went. And the whole $5,000 thing that she was sending to this other inmate, supposed to get $8,000 back and then 11 and 17 back, whatever. So the team and then me, because again, I was never a part of the team. So I'm not going to like say that because I thank God was not. But in the Signal group, it was understood that like that was Jesse's money. Like Jesse was supposed to be sending that $5,000 out of her money, not out of the Fundly money. So I don't know where it came from. I don't even know if she actually has done it or not. But because again, it's been, weeks now, but, everything was, the way that Jesse made it sound was everything was up and up. She paid everything like she said. Yes.
She didn't seem worried about these bank statements that came out that were showing wire transfer fraud and all this other stuff. Right. She didn't seem concerned about.
She did not seem concerned at all, like cool as a literal cucumber about it.
And she didn't indicate that anybody had come after her. Now, I know you said you've been in touch. Yes. Or you've been in contact or something.
Yes.
But she
and not just regular police, like higher up than that, if you get where I'm going.
Right. And so you were contacted in regards to this? To this?
Yes, to this, to the Fundly, to the suits, all of that, all of the scams all together.
Okay. But was this after you stopped talking to her or before?
What part? That I was contacted?
Yes.
After.
Okay, so it wasn't.
I think that they thought I was still in contact with her, but obviously I was not, and they know that. But they want to, and there's receipts. There's a lot. I mean, like I said, anybody who was in the official team or that left or that was in the Signal. I mean, we know to screenshot as we go, right? Like. We know, and I knew, thank God, I acted cool for probably a week and a half. Once I decided to leave and not support anymore, I stayed so that I could watch what was going to happen in the next week, because T and M came in and took over. And at a time, Jesse's name when I got on Signal was Marie. Then it came out that it was Jessie. She changed her name to Jessie eventually. Then it went to J. Then it went to AJ. Then it's now Jay, I believe. So, yeah.
And that was, so.
What do you think about that, AJ?
Very interesting, right? Very, very interesting. And how interesting AJ I think I want to say it was Courtney's Live even maybe that somebody, I can't remember what creator, but they put it on YouTube. And it might have been y'all's live that somebody, or Courtney's, that they connected, that it was like AJ, Ari, and Jesse.
I said that a while ago.
Okay, maybe it was yours then. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
And I was like, damn, that is pretty telling. So, and of course, I said something to Jessie about it, and she was like, I didn't even think of that. And I was like, well, that's quite a coincidence,
right?
Well, why did she say that she did it then?
She didn't ever
Steve
give
says it's his name, Amanda. He says that it's what Wade's name was before he was adopted.
His birth
James.
Yeah, his
Anthony
birth
James,
name.
I think, or what was it, Anthony?
Anthony James, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He called him AJ. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I guess maybe that's why she chose the AJ, and I don't know,
So, Amanda, did she ever discuss the Ari, the Monica, any of that with you?
No, never. Not with anybody from my knowledge, not at all, because multiple people were asking and trying to get clarity. But and when things like that would come up, Jesse would drop off. So thank you all for the gifts. I know, I can't remember her name, but I think was it Jenny Lynn or something? Jerry Lynn?
Jerry Lynn.
Thank you so much for all the gifts, sweetie. And whoever just sent that one. Thank you guys. For some reason, I'm having a hard time looking at the screen and reading comments and running my mouth.
Yeah,
and I'm normally good at that. I'm normally really good at it. I haven't done it in a while. There it is, Jerry Lynn. I'm so sorry. Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate you. But so Jessie would kind of drop off. Her account would just kind of drop off when people would ask the hard questions, or when heat for her was getting even worse. She would kind of drop out. And then towards the end is when, right as like Sparrow, whoever was leaving the official team in the Signal group, is when T&M came in, and they were introduced to us as joining the group and the team. They were joining the official team and the group. Let me be specific, because some of the people, there was a lot of us at first in the Signal group, right? But only like 8 or so were actually official team members, if that makes sense. I know, Courtney, I'm trying. You kicked me out your live, so I've had no practice. Just kidding.
So the official members, the official team Wade, their duties are what, like the more forward facing?
Yeah, so they're the ones that
putting
go
together
on.
social media.
Yeah,
they are doing the editing, social media.
And you can tell
that's
by the posts, because when they put dates, they put foreign dates. They do it foreign, the way foreigners do it, backwards. So you can tell that it's people out of the country that are making those posts.
Oh, absolutely. Did you all meet in person? No, we have not. Kelly and Sparrow, all real people, yes. Kelly for sure, and her and Sparrow is as well. I've talked to her as well. I'm trying to keep up with these comments now. Do you know who T&M is? So I know that Tiffany and Molly are not their real names. I have had one conversation with T on Signal before I left and quit supporting. And it was just about other people. There was somebody in the group that was a snake apparently and was giving information. So that's when they started thinning the herd, as you would, I guess, for lack of better words. And Slither.
They like snakes.
Snakiest.
They are too. They're the snakes, but they had a bunch of issues with somebody in the Facebook group that one of the girls was running, and then another group on Snappy, and then the Signal group, and then the TikTok, and people putting stuff and information that was in the Signal group was getting leaked. So they started kicking a bunch of people out. And then it was, if you don't have time to dedicate, a lot of time for, I think it was research and something was the other group where they had all the people's information. And they said, if you don't have time to, spend a lot of time doing this, then we're going to kick you out and you can be pretty much in the report group. Val is not involved. No, she
levels to it.
Yeah, she X'd out about this. So Kelly left first when the calls came out, and then Sparrow left behind Kelly, and then Val left behind those two. You could tell she was hurt when all the scams came out. She didn't know. She was a kind of, not kind of, she was another innocent party who believed all of these lies, and then it got hit in our face that it was all lies. And so she left. She more so said that she's over by where the war is going on. So she wanted to make sure that, they were safe, her family was safe. But yeah, she was another, pretty innocent, and her and Jessie were very close as well, I believe. And that was pretty heartbreaking, I'm sure, as well. Vivian, I don't believe, is still around. I think she's kind of been gone for a minute. She was never part of if you're talking about the phone call one, then no, she was never in the official part.
So we, as of 3 weeks, because Jerry Lynn said, I don't think she's off the team. Jerry Lynn, I don't think she's ever gonna, Sparrow actually said it. She's like, Jesse's never gonna go until he gets rid of her. So,
and really, with her sneaking in, getting his, power of attorney stuff and all of that, it's going to be very hard for him to get rid of her, which is probably, the whole point. But,
what do you know about the power of attorney? What can you tell us about the power of attorney? Do you know if there's more than one?
It sounded like there was. Because there's like the power of attorney, like with talking to attorneys, and then it's like the financial, and then there's medical. And it sounded to me that, again, this is assuming, I'm not 100% sure, but it sounded like she had all, like she could help with medical stuff, but power of attorney as like a whole normally kind of covers all of it. So, I mean, Steve said that she doesn't. I haven't heard, unless it was in the last 3 weeks, I haven't heard a thing about her not having that anymore.
Mm-hmm. And what about, do we know if the dad had it?
Before, or you mean now?
Or like ever, now I guess.
I remember a conversation where she was talking about his dad taking over, or maybe, I don't know if that phone call, like time wise, like the timeline, I don't know if that was before she got power of attorney, that they were talking about his bio dad getting it, or I'm sorry, his adoptive dad getting power of attorney, or if that was after, because she wanted it off of her, or he wanted it off of her, whichever. I'm not sure, but there was a conversation that, phone calls from prison release that did say, I remember a conversation about the dad and the POA, but I know that Jesse for sure had it up until a few weeks ago.
Right. And then somebody said POA cannot give medical clearance. So maybe you're referring to like, it's not really called a power of attorney. I think it's oh gosh, what is that called? Like,
I believe she has the medical on top of it because of the hernia.
Right.
You're talking about like advanced directives?
Yeah. But there's another word that I'm thinking of, but yes, basically that. Yeah.
Is it healthcare proxy?
Proxy. That's the word I was looking for.
Silver lining. Thank you.
And actually, thank you. And actually, Angel is, if I remember correctly, Angel works in Idaho on D Row, and she is a nurse, I believe. So she's probably very familiar with that stuff.
Yeah. There was sorry, I'm just my phone's getting close to dying. Are donations still coming through the attorney website? I know that there have been some donations, again, like 3 weeks prior to this. But I don't know if they still are. I know that all fundraisers were supposed to be shut down, but I believe that some are still trickling in to the attorney himself. Yes. And everything left from whatever she has paid is on Jesse's card that Jesse has to pay. So it's not his family, like everybody, like we were told. It sounds like it's Jesse's debit card, credit card, like credit, whatever that's on the line for what's owed to Ufferman.
Wow, is all I'm going to say there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was told that it was his family at first. I was told that his family signed that, and that like his family, like as in assumption of family, would be his mother, his adoptive mother.
Yeah,
no disrespect to Steve. I respect Steve 100%. Like I have no issue with Steve. I'm just saying, like, just to be clear, that I was under the understanding that it was his adoptive parents that, signed for it, for like Ufferman, and they had to pay the rest, which was smart, I guess, because, nobody's going to want to help Jesse pay it, but they would want to help his family who's innocent pay it. Right. So, I mean, I guess like, smart to play it like that, but that was a lie that we were told. It is Jesse that is held accountable, from my understanding of all that's left to Ufferman.
Wow. What webs we weave when our intent is to deceive, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm just going to run real fast and just see, because I know you said your phone's dying. And I appreciate you answering everybody's questions, and I appreciate you coming here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I really do appreciate it. And, I'd like to leave the lines of communication open for us to maybe chat again.
Yes, reach out anytime. And that's Tam, let Courtney, if no pressure, but if for some reason Courtney, if she wants me to come on the live and explain anything to her followers now, because I know stuff and a lot of them paid money, I'm open to doing that as well. I don't know if she's still in here, but I obviously respect her and, want to give, that to her followers still as well.
And I think that would be a level of redemption for you there, Amanda, as well. Because use that adjective. They were upset about, some of the comments that were made about the Fundly. And I think that would be absolute redemption because the same people are still in those lives, so it would be clarity for them. But I did have one more question for your phone, Dice.
Of course.
And I don't know if you can tell me or not, but I just have to know, and we can do this in Snap. But in your talks with, Alphabet Boys, did they mention anything about a raffle scam?
Alphabet Boys.
The higher ups than the local police. Think about it.
I don't know what you're saying.
I was like, what are we talking about? Soup?
I call them the Alphabet Boys, y'all. The Alphabet Boys. Did they mention anything about the raffle scam?
This is something we don't know about.
Well, y'all welcome to Tamara's World. Welcome to Tamara's World.
I was like, I guess I wasn't in that close.
I'm just saying, did they mention anything about the raffle part of things?
There were multiple things that I guess were complaints, right? I don't know if they're investigating all complaints, but it did sound like it was Suits, the raffle for the phone calls, the Fundly in general, what she did with it, commissary being, it sounded like it was in a hole.
Okay, because that's just a federal law that you can't do online gaming without like state approval and stuff. I was just wondering if that was brought up because if they missed it, I was going to call them and tell them.
Yeah. Hey, well, I support anybody continuing to go and report just in case, hold them accountable.
So basically the team, what's left of the team, from what I understand, is basically it's all mostly, right, people that don't live in this country.
Yes, it's T&M who are outside of the United States, and then Jesse. And then the research page, I believe, has like maybe 5 women in it that are also, I don't believe any of them were from the United States. And they're like 18-year-old high school students or, people here and there. And they just do the research and of other people to help with the inconsistencies in court. So the team, as far as I know, again, as of 3 weeks ago, it's just TM and Jesse. And of course, they say Jesse isn't part of the team, but it is,
Yeah. How would they even know what to do or what? Like they have to have Jesse.
Right.
Lynn's dropped off. They would have to have her because who's going to be the go-between? Yeah. And you're saying that a lot of them are young girls too.
Yes. The one, I actually have a screenshot. The one was like, when T and put out that if you don't have time to stay in here, then we're going to, pretty much send you out and you can do reporting or whatever. She said, I'm so sorry. I'm in school studying for exams. I'm in high school studying for my exams. Apparently she was 18, but she was in high school studying for exams. And I actually reached out and to Kelly, to be honest, and was like, these motherfuckers got 18-year-old minors up in this bitch, they got me completely fucked because hell no. Not with minors, baby. You ain't
I hate to say it, but and I hate to say it, but who's left at this point other than people that maybe aren't bright enough to put it all together or aren't more experienced enough to figure this all out, or
linguification barrier. Yes, yep, all of those things.
Because there's I don't know thirst trap pages. It's all thirst trap pages. And
a lot of the people that got silenced because they're worried, like Brooke, Haley, Shannon, Dawn, a lot of those people, in my opinion, are worried and they're being silent because they know that their calls can start coming out.
Yeah.
So, and there's more. And of course, if my phone wasn't dying, I would stay. But, next time you're on and you're talking about it, I can hop back on and answer anything else.
Awesome.
And Courtney, I saw your, that you requested, I will add it, accept it, whatever you do. And I sent you a follow back as well, babe. So,
I'm glad you guys were able to resolve that too, because I know you guys were friends for a while there. And I just hate to see Wade Wilson ruin, other people's lives, So I'm glad that you came back to the light. And, I'm glad that you didn't get, badly wrapped up into it. And, it is what it is. It happens and you're moving forward. So that's it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tam, it was good talking to you.
I'll talk to you soon, honey, okay?
Okay. All right. Good night, you guys.
Good night.
Christy girl, Christy girl, Christy girl.
It's the only way we can talk these days now.
Right. I'm like, when I saw that, I was like, send a request right now.
I know, and I was like,
really
oh
did
God, I
try.
want shit to pop off. I mean, I know,
No. We're cool.
I know
We're
you.
cool.
I know you're not like that, but
I just tried to save her from it. You know,
when
I
she
really
said
did.
that before you guys came in here, she was like totally like, Courtney, my voice is like 90, like I would say 90% back. So, but yeah, she said it before you guys came in here. She just basically was to take accountability, and she's like, especially Tamara, she tried to tell me, and I just, I guess
She was on a mission. She had something that she wanted to, see through. And I mean, I understand that, and that's pretty much how I got tangled up in it as well. But again, I tried to tell her, because I have my own story with Jesse, and how Jesse like completely discredited me and did some really incredulous things to me and didn't even know me.
Now,
Because,
did you
again,
ever talk to Jesse?
No, actually,
Okay.
I went to Courtney because,
Okay.
again, I was working behind the scenes.
Right.
I was just doing all this collectively as a hobby, per se, just looking at it being like, wow, this is insane. And I was working with a smaller podcast and funneling information through them. And they told me to get into the inner circle. So I went to April 1st. I messaged her. I told her, I said, I have things that can really help your side. I am not a Wade wife. I am not a Wade fan, is exactly what I said.
Right.
But I have found things that are very, they really this really needs to be looked into. So she messaged me back a couple times, and then that was when I think she got doxxed online and she kind of went away. So I went back to the podcast. I'm like, look, I'm not making any headway with her. And I took it upon myself to go to Courtney. Courtney then went to quote unquote Marie on my behalf. I was like, this girl's got stuff. Like, she's got a lot of stuff. Like, she's figured out some things. And she did not like that I knew things and could help him per se, not really help him, because again, the crimes that he committed were horrible. They were terrible. It was basically my belief of one over the other, or how things possibly happen. And again, you and I have talked offline, and I've given you my perception of things, that even though he's guilty, if other people are involved, they should be held to the same punishment. And that's kind of the angle that I was coming at it from. Not necessarily he was innocent, but maybe he didn't there was other people who played parts. Yeah. And again, I felt like they needed to be involved with this as well.
Right. And that's how Kelly and her mom felt too. Because that's what Sparrow told me when I spoke to her, is that basically, that's what they felt like, basically, if there was other people involved, then yes, they need to be held accountable as well. Right. Besides the fact that she didn't believe in DP.
Right. So. And again, it was never brought up at the trial. And if you actually go through the depositions, you will see that the original lawyers, I think the one lawyer, he passed away while he was on the case. He's the one who did the depositions. He was questioning certain questions that would lead back to this. And again, I spent hours reading these depositions, hours and hours of my life I'll never get back, because I was interested. Right. And I saw that they were going down that path, but then Hollander and the other guy's name, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, they never even pursued that avenue. So, and again, I've said it many times, my brother-in-law was murdered. And if there would have been another catalyst in that crime, I would want both people punished, not just one, and another one walking free. So I can put myself into those victim shoes. Okay. And so that's why I started on what I started on. So again, I was just trying to get the information I had collected that was very unknown at the time. I've come out with it since. It was actually they did the podcast, which I was actually doxxed on accidentally, but whatever. And I was just trying to get that information over to get to an attorney. Do what?
What podcast are you talking about?
What podcast? I would rather not say. I can tell you offline. But they actually put my face and my TikTok channel on their podcast, and 22,000 people saw it. which is why I had to take my face off for a while, my name, because I didn't know where this was going to go. I had no idea. I never wanted any clout. I never wanted any money off of it. It was just, again, I found things and I thought people should know. So when Courtney went to Jessie, she was all hyped up about it. She's like, she can really help us. And Jessie went to the smaller podcast and she did an interview. There's a hint. And she told them that I went to Courtney and I really much couldn't be trusted, and said a lot of things that weren't said in that conversation with Courtney and made me have problems with them.
Oh, okay.
And it really hurt. It would almost be like Griselda, and I love Griselda, my girl, our girl, going to Plug and DVS and telling them something, and DVS and Plug turning their back on her.
Right.
That's how I felt. I felt very, very, very just, it was terrible. Like, I felt terrible. So I contacted Courtney back. I told her what happened and I agreed to go on her live, and I presented everything that I had found. And so that's when you say the rest is history, which I found all you guys, which is wonderful. But it was just, the fact that Jessie / Marie at the time, and she did the interview as Marie. There's another hint. And it was actually a bomb, and everybody made fun of that because of how she sounded like a schoolgirl on that podcast. But the fact that she literally threw me under the bus, not knowing me, not knowing anything about me. So I have really been riding her hard for a long time. And I kept saying, Marie's going to be exposed, and Courtney will tell you. And so then they have me on YouTube saying that I knew the whole time that she was being deceptive. That is not the truth. Yeah. The truth is that Courtney had a phone number that Marie had given her for the interview. And Courtney gave me the phone number, and I put it through Cash App, and it came back Jessie Tahanika. And we said, who is Jessie Tahanika? When Kelly went live with her cease and desist, I called Courtney, this girl's name is on the cease and desist. We waited to say anything until we heard the phone call the next day because we had no proof. It wasn't that we knew she was deceiving anybody. We just knew that Jessie Tahanika was somehow linked to Marie. Right. But we had no credulous information to say she was the same person.
Right.
So that's why we waited. So everybody's like, oh, that 10-year-old girl knew and she let people donate and blah, blah. That is not the truth.
Right.
We're not going to come out with an allegedly. Yeah, we can't say it's fact until we knew.
I know. I mean, like I had, I had people sending me information about things and, oh, this is this one and that one is this. And I specifically, oh, hi, how are you? This is my backup account, by the way. I got blocked on the other one. Sorry. But anyway, so I had found people here and there too. And I know for sure, like two of them were accurate, but I wasn't going to be the one to put that out there.
Right. We weren't either. I wasn't going out there with any type of slander, because what if we were wrong? We had to hear that call to match that voice. Like there was no way. I was like, Courtney, of course it was like, we were all overwhelmed, but again, you can't make those type of accusations without proof. So all the people who slammed me for that were like, she knew, but yet they're the ones who say, oh, we come fact checked. Right. We don't say anything unless it's a fact. Well, I did the same thing. Right. I wasn't trying to protect this girl. I've not liked her from get-go. You know what I mean? I felt that she was really going to be a problem, which is why I went to Amanda when she did the Q&A. And I said, Amanda, you have really, 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 you need to back away. Yeah. You need to back away now. You are honestly.
And as soon as that Q&A started and I heard her voice, I knew it was Amanda. I knew it. Nobody had to tell me. And I was like, whoa, what the hell? I was shocked because I had heard her on your guys' live so many times. And then, like I said, she would come into mine every once in a while and we were friendly. And I was like shocked. I really was shocked. I just couldn't believe it.
It was, it was quite, eye-opening. And again, Courtney trusted this person to come in her house because she was trying to help Wade. It was all a set-up thing. She wanted to give a positive light of him because her experience with him was positive.
Right.
She didn't make that up. Her stories never changed. She fortunately, I will say unfortunately and fortunately, she didn't experience that side of him, but unfortunately she didn't because she went on there and she was his sole crusader.
Right.
Because she was the one who touched him. She was the one that could physically say, he is a tangible person in my life. I have spent time with him. He has never, ever crossed the line with me. He's never abused me. He never spoke down to me. And they used her to promote that side of him But again, when he was with Courtney, he was not on schmurgs, or however you say it.
Right.
So-
And that was my thing always. Like, people were like, I don't understand how you could. And listen, I'm not saying I agree with everything Courtney does. I mean, I don't agree with what a lot of people, what other people do, but that doesn't mean that I just all of a sudden I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to this person. Like, I could not agree with something somebody does and still like them. You know what I mean? Or like other things about them. So my thing was, I always said, like, I'm like, look, that's her truth. You want her to get on here and lie, or do you want her to say that's her truth? That is her truth. That was her experience. It doesn't mean that he still didn't do all the things.
Exactly.
I still believe that he did all the things and never thought he was innocent, and thought that he got exactly what he deserved. But at the end of the day, I was like, okay, well, this is her truth, And
I remember the
people
point.
did get mad.
The turning point with Courtney was when she heard the phone calls of the confessions. Not necessarily the first ones with Mila and Steve, but when she heard the police interviews and the confessions, Courtney was a mess. She was a bawling. I mean, she was just unconsolable because she felt like she had betrayed people, which was not the truth, because she, again, was deceived as well.
Right.
She came out. She gave it out. She said, "You guys, I no longer support this. I am so sorry. I never was. I've always been for the victims. I just didn't feel like he did this because the person I knew could not have done this." And that's the point that she was coming from, the person she knew. So she's not a kiosk girl. She wasn't a Wade wife. She knew this man in real time, and she experienced a wonderful friendship with him. So how could you, and if you, and I beg you to go back to somebody in your past that was wonderful and kind and charming and funny and all the things that he can be. And you had a great experience with them. And then you hear that they've done something so horrific that you just can't wrap your brain around the person doing that. You're going to defend them, or you're at least going to hear them out. And he's telling her, I didn't do this or whatever. I'm not capable. And she believed him because of the relationship that they had, not a telephone call. So, and so I have defended her, and people come at her all the time. And I see that somebody in your chat, I'm not good at talking and communicating and reading either. But I saw somebody was saying something.
Listen to you and look in the chat.
Yeah, I saw some Lala was saying something or being disrespectful where I'm concerned. But here's the difference between Jessie and I. She claims to have thick skin. I do. I've been on Reddit. They can't stand her voice. Okay, well then don't listen to me. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I beg to differ. I had 3 whiteboards at one time going, honey. I knew what was going on.
You had Tam, did you have spreadsheets?
I had spreadsheets. I have templates. I had 3 whiteboards behind my door.
Oh my God.
And every time something new would come up, I'd have to go erase my timeline, and it was not working for me. I'm OCD. But I'm not a Wade wife. I'm not a Wade widow. I'm not anything, because I've said on.
What happened? Oh, sorry, your volume went out.
Oh, okay. I said there were 2 calls out of all of them that hit me in the feels. And again, I'm an adopted child. We've talked about this. And when I saw the video with him and his biological father, Steve, who I have immense respect for, my heart crushed. I couldn't even talk to these girls. They called, they did a Snapchat call after it was over, and all of them will tell you, I could not speak. For me not to be able to speak, it's a bad thing. I felt him on such a level that understanding how he felt as an adopted child, and it does not matter if your family gives you the world, Christy. You always have that rejection and abandonment built into you. Adoption is a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong, but it leaves a scar on the child. And I was so just completely, I could understand. He looked like a little boy. And I told them, I said, I could just go bust down the walls and just hug him and tell him you're worthy. Then the next day a call came out that disgusted me. And I said, forget that. I'm back to square one. But I saw what these people see, these people who support him. Prison has changed him. He's not the same person he went in 5 years ago, that very vulnerable young man that was talking to his father. He's hardened criminal.
For sure.
There's a difference.
And I think I do think that he even built himself up to what he was when he committed these unalivings. He built that life up from, where he started, because he kind of was always in and out of trouble. So I think he built himself into what he turned out to be. That's my personal opinion. I definitely understand what you're saying. I mean, obviously I wasn't adopted. I didn't adopt children, so I can't speak on something that I have no experience with. I do know people that are adopted, and I don't know if all right, I want to say this and you tell me if it's wrong. Do you think that it's every person that's adopted, or do you think that there are some people that don't feel that abandoned?
Well, I can only speak from my experience with it. And I have spoken to many, many people who have been adopted, and they do all have that. It's almost like a thing. And as a child growing up, I knew. So it was not something that was sprung on me like
Right.
later in life. I knew, and it was explained to me, and that my biological mother was their angel, and she gave them the gift of me. And I was praised, I was spoiled, so we're spinning my mouth, the whole 9 yards. But I always, always, always thought in my brain as a preteen, as a teenager, as a young 20-year-old, that eventually one day I was going to do something so horrific to disappoint them that they didn't have to love me anymore, because they didn't have to. I wasn't their child. Mm-hmm. And that was something in my brain. And again, I'm 53 years old. So I'm not just, 30 years old. I mean, this has been with me my whole life. So I've always tried to build my own family in addition to my adoptive family. I had to have people around me that I called family, because I felt like at some point I would do something to disappoint them and they would walk away from me because my own mother did. And I have found that that is pretty much, from the people that I've spoken to, that all of them have that on some spectrum, that they would not be loved because they weren't biological. And I grew up with two sisters who were biological, and they were biological sisters. So I always felt like, they love them because they're their family, because you're taught to love from a very young age, love people you don't know. Mm. And there's a silver lining. I did find my family this year, and I'm number 13 of 14, you guys.
Oh my God.
I still have 9 living siblings.
So you have a big family.
I do have a big family, and I was the only one given up for adoption.
Oh,
so finding that out has triggered a lot of that. And I found this out in March, and I started this in July. Yeah, so again, that was kind of the pull to me, honestly. But I don't think that people who are adopted necessarily commit crimes like they try to play that off as. But I can see his insecurities. I can see where he was insecure, or where he had this desire to be loved.
Right.
And again, it's a psychological thing. I told you earlier that I just profile people off the hip, and I can definitely see how he was literally, in that interview with his dad, like asking about his mom, I mean, it just was very pitiful to me. And that one really got me in the feels. I'll be honest about that. That one took me out. Took me out for days. Yeah, but then, like I said, the next day,
I saw it differently, to be honest. And that's the thing that's nice about people, is opinion, is it's just an opinion. I don't know, right? I don't know him. I don't know anybody involved in this case. It's just my opinion. I saw it differently. I did see something, but I thought I was going to see more. I was quite disappointed, to be honest with you. I saw, the head down. I saw that, but I saw somebody who was taking an opportunity, and I was really disappointed when I saw how he basically, when he saw that Steve was going to help him, and he's like, oh, so you're going to get me an attorney, or you're going to help me? I feel like that's when he perked up, and that's when he was willing to talk. That's what I saw. I know a lot of people saw disappointment in him and wanting to talk because they felt like he was doing it because that was the only time he showed remorse. I didn't see that. I saw it differently.
And again, I had to take into consideration the timing with that, and and how he was in the mental side of things at that point. Obviously, you could tell by the way he was dressed. Right. And again, am I an expert on addiction? I'm not, but unfortunately, addiction has touched my family, not so much me, but people that I love, and I've had to be the family member of an addict. And I know that mental abilities are altered, or you're going through a withdrawal type situation, or there's a lot that could have been going on mentally. And again, those chemicals that he were on, they charge your brain, they just attack your brain.
Right.
So I don't know if the empathy has ever been there, because I've said on many occasions with Courtney and the girls that we talk to that I really feel like he's a sociopath.
Yeah,
And,
I agree. I go back between psycho and socio. I'm not sure.
The psycho, there's some things, markers there that don't match with him, but it's that need to be loved. Mm-hmm. And I see that, I can see it in photos. I can see it in the videos that Courtney shared with him. And again, it's a gift and ability that I'm so blessed to have, that I can see something shady off the hip. I can, it's just, it's a great gift. I'll just say, I call it my intuition, my third eye, whatever you want to call it. But I see that need. And so when he went with these people in Florida, I call Wade a hobo sapien, which means or a hobosexual. You're going to go wherever you have a place to put a roof over your head. Right. Funny statement. But I see that he was trying to build a family with these people. And the hurt that he had when it did not work, and just his movement. If you just watch his movement from Kelly to Mila to Courtney to just the movement, he's just trying to build something that he feels like's missing. Mm-hmm. And again, and that just might be my ability to resonate with him on that level.
Right.
I don't know, but I just see that he was just desperate to have that, because, in that call with his mom, and then he said he hadn't seen her in like 10 years. Because again, he felt like and again, I'm speaking completely out of just my intuition. I feel like he felt like he disappointed them because they didn't raise him that way.
To be honest, that's the only time I heard.
Yes.
That's the only time. And I know this, I don't mean this to be hurtful, because I do have a lot of respect for Steve as well. And I do agree that there is a connection with Wade and Steve. I do think that there's some connection there. That connection that is undeniable, that right. You don't have to know a person to connect when you have that blood and so I do believe that there is a connection. However, the only time I truly felt like he felt any type of feelings, emotions, or remorse, was when he spoke on his mom, only his mom. And his sisters. I think it hurt him. It hurt him that his sister called him a monster. I think it hurt him. But I think when he spoke about his mom, it was powerful, because it was powerful listening to it, because he almost showed us that he doesn't know how to love her the right way.
Exactly. He said it. And that was what I said. There were 2 calls that got to me, and that was the other one. Because you could hear in his voice that he was so wrecked by the disappointment she had for him. And he kept saying, I love you. I love you. And then he says, I don't even know how to love her the way she loves me.
Right. And I mean, listen, our parents, listen, I'm a mom, right? My kids don't know how to love me the way I love them.
Exactly.
But so I get that. But you can almost hear that he knows that something's wrong, that he doesn't have the ability to love the way he's supposed to love.
Which leads me back to the sociopath And I don't know, the diagnoses that they gave him, that he's definitely neurodivergent, like definitely. And they're missing that. And that was,
he's got a personality disorder, which is very hard to treat.
Absolutely. Very. And, and I'm listening, and the doctor's going through, and he's talking about the brain, and then the MD gets up there and he's talking about the brain from his aspect. And the whole time I'm screaming at my TV, and I'm saying, you are a coroner. You look at brains of deceased people.
Right.
You're not looking at a brain in function. Yeah. So you have no correlation to what they're, and I'm screaming at my TV, like literally. I'm like, and they're going to listen to this guy. Because like CTE, they can find it, after the person's deceased.
Right.
Because they can't see it in an active brain. So it's very hard to figure that out. But when I look at Wade, I see somebody who is definitely neurodivergent. He's got some type of issue going on. I see the sociopath tendencies. And again, those kind of people are institutionalized because that's where they can function the best when they are institutionalized. And I mean by being put in prison.
And what you said is exactly the truth, because that's where I think he wants to be.
He thrives in prison.
He's comfortable there. He's
Yes,
comfortable there.
absolutely. He's not left to work himself in the real world because he can't fit in because of all of the issues that he has, because he does know something's wrong.
Yes.
I truly believe that. And, you know, and again, is he a slime ball for what he's done to these women? Yes. But every person that's in that jail that's on that call does the same thing. That is the way of life in the institutionalized world.
Yeah. And let's just be clear that, and I've said this many, many times, but let's just be clear. These are just explanations. They're not excuses. They're just explanations for why the people behave the way they behave. But at the end of the day, it's not an excuse, and he's where he needs to be, and he's guilty and all of that. So no matter what, there's no excuse for it. It's just that it's a way of us understanding sometimes why people are the way they are. That's all.
And my gut feeling on this, Christy, and you know, you might disagree with me, but when I started on this case, I looked at it and he had been arrested 46 times before this. And in my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, every judge,
Tam, you're breaking up.
Court-appointed attorney, everybody who's come into contact with him failed miserably. Because this could have been prevented. I'm sorry. I said this could have been prevented because of everybody he's come in contact with. Over 46 arrests. Somebody should have identified this, and they, in my opinion, again, I'll say this, should hold some responsibility. And I'm not talking about punitively or jail time or anything like that, but I hope they hold a conscious part of that. This is a contribution to what happened, because this should have been stopped.
100%. And it happens too many times, where
all the time,
multiple times. I mean, we look at in 2015, the SA with the person, he completely got off on that charge. Okay. Then, you know, what happened with Kelly? I mean, getting away with what happened with Kelly is just mind blowing to me. And truthfully, had he not gotten away with that, he wouldn't have been able to, you know, get where he was and, you know, get to Mila, and that whole thing wouldn't have transpired, in my opinion. So
do our voices now, this is my question, and this is why I've been so adamant about this. Does my voice now, speaking on this and bringing that to light, all of us talking about it collectively from both sides of the coin, either how I feel, how other people feel, whatever, does that bring some sort of enlightenment that this should not be happening? Do we, and I know we're only on TikTok, but I promise you, very prominent people have contacted me and message and say, "What? How do you know this stuff?"
Right.
And I said, to me, it's just common sense. But again, I am educated, but I mean, I'm not educated in psychology or sociology or anything like that. It's just things that I can look at and decipher. But my point is, do you continue on, or do you take the negative out of it? And the positive is you save the next one. And it doesn't bring back the victims. It doesn't. But don't let them go in vain.
Right.
Save the next one and say, listen, y'all, if you have a career criminal who is committing the same crimes down to the letter, because if you read all these previous arrests, the strangulation, I don't know if I can say that. Maybe I can't. All of that is a pattern. It is a pattern.
Patterns.
So when you get this guy in court and you're like getting him an attorney and you see this, and I understand due process and I understand how the court systems work down to the nines. I get it. And there are certain things you can't do or intervene or whatever. Why is nothing made a recommendation? Because I will tell you, when my brother-in-law was murdered, the girl who actually committed the crime was an addict. And when her bond hearing came up, I went before the judge with the DA and said, I understand you're going to give her bond, but can I make a request for said bond? Because she was in jail under vehicular homicide. And he said, what is your request? I said, I would like her remanded to a rehab facility until she goes to court. So when she does go to court and she does hear all this live, she is sober. She can take in everything that she's done, and she can be a better mother to her children, a better daughter to her parents. And that is my request. And they remanded her to a mandatory state-funded rehab facility until the day we went to court. And when she was in court and I was able to address her for the crimes that she committed against my family, she was able to understand what I was saying to her.
Right, exactly.
So just something of that alignment is that, you know, things can be changed. And people don't understand that, you know, maybe something like this and all the attention that this is thwarted might come out into a positive light.
Right. Because it's bringing awareness that we cannot continue to allow, because time and time again, you know, in a lot of these cases where there's unalivings, there are signs, there are prior, you know, arrests. So a lot of the times, I'm not saying all of the times, but I'm saying a lot of the times, there are signs and prior arrests and things that, you know, lead up to it. And so what are we going to do to change that so that we have this information and we stop this from happening? You know, it's like the school, you know, the school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know what you're saying.
Right? Okay. It's all of these things. What are we doing to stop this from happening? What are we doing to prevent these things from happening when we already know? We're all sitting here with the answers, right?
Right.
It's not the answers, but, you know, one of the answer is, how about it doesn't happen 42 times before, you know, it's like that intersection that needs the stop sign. And until somebody gets unalived and, you know, and crashes, that's when they finally put the stop sign up, you know, after someone gets unalived at that intersection, you know.
There's one word that I can give you that would just wrap all this into a bow, one word, and it's called escalation. Things escalate. Mm-hmm. So when you have, and you know, and we go back to the Dahmer case, what did he do? He mutilated animals.
Yeah.
That was a telltale sign. And he did this with his father. So it makes me look back at his father and say, what crimes did you commit? Because again, as an outsider looking in, and I think that this should be something that should be educated. I think that, you know, I have the utmost respect for police officers, detectives. I have the utmost respect for them. But should this be something that they have these profilers come in on these, I mean, and look at these cases and be like, you know what? I think there's a pattern here and maybe we need to intervene. Mm-hmm. Instead of just pushing papers off a desk. Right. And I'm not saying that they're doing the wrong thing, and I think we're understaffed, and I think there's a whole lot of things going on. But just like domestic violence laws need to be, you know, completely revamped. Mm-hmm. Because, y'all, I'm telling you, as a prior victim, when I was a victim of domestic assault and the police told me that there was nothing that I could do because we cohabitated, and that that was both of our residents, and I could not lock him out of the house and he could break a window and he broke no law. Y'all, that is obscene. That's terrible.
Yep.
That is awful. And I'm not safe in my own home because he cohabitates with me, but he broke the law. I mean, it blows my mind. So if you think about that, and then you think about when the child was the 16-year-old that we've all read the reports, and he was found innocent of that by a jury of his peers, y'all. Just let me say that. He was found innocent of that. Because what do? We always blame the victim in those cases. What were you wearing? What were you doing? Were you being provocative?
Yeah.
As a woman, that's very detrimental. Yeah. But had somebody said, wait a minute, when he was 20 and he did it again, we have a case here when he was 18 or 19, right, and the things are similar. As a criminal prosecuting attorney, I know that I can't bring that up in this case because it's not relevant, but I can bring up that I have, you know, some type of situation of a pattern, and maybe we should throw that out, that he gets some kind of counseling or reevaluation, something. Right. There has to be something they can do. And I don't know what that is, and maybe that's what got us all cranked on this. I don't know. But something's got to change, because those women would still be here had he been held accountable for many before he was 25 years old.
All you have to do is look back and say, you look at like what he did to Mila months before, and you just
Yes,
say,
on June the 30th, absolutely. And when I told her, everybody said I attacked her, Christy, on that live, and I did not. I did not. I was trying to get her to understand that slinging mud is slinging mud, regardless of what direction it's coming from, and that everybody needed to stop. That was my complete strategy, and that was to have her understand that, albeit she had problems with Courtney had problems with her, squash it on both sides.
Right.
And I told her, and it stumped her. I said, I read your report from the June the 30th, 2019, Mila. I know what he did to you. And I did not say it to shock her. I did not say it to stunt her. I needed her to understand I knew what position she was sitting in. Because it was textbook. It was exactly what was in many reports before. And, we look at him. Oh, he's 31 years old. He had 46 arrests. Y'all, he had 46 arrests between the age of 19 and 25.
it's insane.
That doesn't even count the two with Diane and Christine.
Right.
So there was a lot of intervention that was missed, because I get it. The criminal system's backed up. I do. I mean, I and the right there, but something has to change, because how many more are we going to have like this?
It has to.
How many more?
It
has something has to give. We're not. It's just not. It's awful. It's just.
All I do is look back. I mean, even if they would have looked at Kelly's situation, right? I mean, this is Kelly's story. Kelly's story is, they told me, they basically didn't believe her, right? All you have to do is go and look back, and you'll see that everything she described is the same thing. And you know what she said they told her? Or no, they didn't tell her, but then people on the internet were saying, well, you just looked at the old reports and you used the same thing. And that's terrible to me, because victim blaming and going after victims, whether you believe them or not, is just, in my opinion, wrong. But the patterns were the patterns. You can't change that. The tying the clothes around her, exactly, the biting, putting her on the floorboard like he did with his his first SA victim that was on file. We don't know how many other people he did it to that we don't know about. We don't know about other victims that, we don't know, the people that didn't come forward. I'm sure he has other victims that have not come forward. So, we really just don't know, but we do know that if you talk to these people, the pattern is the same. And I made a video on my TikTok, and I posted it, and I showed even what he did in the unalivings compared to what he did to Mila 3 months before. Very similar, tying the clothes around the victim. Obviously this with everyone, just all these same patterns. You have to say, come on now. What are we going to do about this? How are we going to stop this from happening again?
And it was missed.
Right.
And so do they just say at the end of the day, oops, we're sorry, you don't have two loved ones here because we missed all the signs? No, that's not going to cut it. So there should be some accountability. Like something should be done in their name, some type of law or something. And I don't even know how to begin to do something like that. That's just not my cup of tea. Right. But something needs to be proposed that when you have multiple, of the same, stop it before it gets to this point. And again, is it something that would benefit the perpetrator? Absolutely. But we don't put people in prison to rehabilitate them anymore.
No, there is no rehabilitation in prison.
No, there is no rehabilitation. And that is kind of what the penal system set up to do, is either, rehabilitate, assess, whatever, and that's not happening.
Right.
I do know people who have been to prison who come out and are fantastic people and live a great life and turn their whole life around. But then I see the ones who are just literally like a revolving door, in and out, in and out.
They went in.
Exactly. Because that institutional life and having to learn to do what he's doing right now. And I'm not making excuses for him, but that's what they all do.
Yeah.
They all do this. This is the game. And you've heard Jumpsuit Pablo say it 1,000 times.
Oh, yeah.
He's seen that game. He's seen where people have been tied up and begging their loved ones for money because they're being held or going to be, whatever, I can't say the word,
Right.
if they don't send money, and the prisoner is behind the whole thing. They're doing this to their own family. There is a level of mentality that when you get in there, we do have ideal prisoners. Like, we have people who go in and they, they do their best that they can while they're in jail, and they become trustees or whatever. And they, and then what do? They introduce the stuff into the prison.
Yeah, I think the Menendez brothers did a great job at rehabilitation. Well, I don't, I have a lot of different feelings, but at the end of the day, they were model prisoners.
Right.
I truthfully, this is just my opinion, I don't believe that Wade is rehabilitatable.
No, I don't either. I think he needed intervention at a very early age.
Right.
Because I am one of the people that do believe that mental illness is hereditary.
Oh yeah, for sure. It definitely is, because
imbalances are hereditary.
It's hereditary. My mom had it and my grandmother had it. So
we've heard Steve speak on his mom. We've heard Steve speak on his mom, and that, he felt like when she gave him up for adoption that really triggered something with her. But if she has mental illness, it was just a matter of time.
And addiction too. I do think that
absolutely
people are more prone to addiction when they have parents who have an addiction.
Well, and and just in my life, and not to divulge too much, I told you that I have a family member who's an addict. And we found out at a certain time he was bipolar. And during my research, I found out that 96% of treated addicts have some sort of mental illness, because it makes them feel normal in their head.
I was going to say that too, because, and also, there's a lot of self-medicating for various reasons.
Absolutely.
They're doing it because they don't understand what they have, or they don't want to take medication because, I could name probably 3 people. I'm not going to, but I can think of 3 people in my head who would rather self-medicate than take medication because they don't want to gain weight like I did. So
there's a certain, a certain, and I don't want to say it's there's nothing wrong with having to take medication, but some of the people that I've talked to, that it's they feel like it's detrimental to their character if somebody were to find out they were on some type of medication or something. And I think that's absolutely absurd. But again, that's the mental illness.
Right.
That's the mental illness. And I've seen them take handfuls of things and wouldn't take the medication that was prescribed to the doctor because they told them it was going to take 12 to 18 months to find the correct cocktail. And they're just like, well, this works for me right away.
Right.
But it doesn't. It doesn't work for you right away.
No, it's for them, it's that not feeling this. Exactly. So I'll just do that because I'm not going to feel this, and I'm not going to wait this long. And like I said, a lot of them don't like the side effects. They don't like the weight gain. Like I said, I could name people. I know of people that need to be on medication, but will not take it because they don't want to gain weight. They don't want to get heavy. They don't want the side effects from these medications. Some of these medications make you like a zombie. And then you're like, okay, this is the wrong medication, so I need to change medications. And now you're playing this game.
Yes, the cocktail game. The cocktail game.
Exactly.
You have to find that appropriate dosage.
Where you're just trying different medications until you find the right one. Meantime, you're suffering.
And I believe that you have to correct me, because I know you don't know the facts on this as well. But I do believe that I heard something around the age of 14 to 13 to maybe 15, Wade was put on a psychiatric hold. So
yeah, they have in Florida. I forget what it's called. Baker acted. So I think he was Baker acted at 13.
13, and this was not addressed. Why?
So that was kind of like what his mom alluded to, is that in one of her letters, she kind of alluded to the fact that he was Baker acted, treated, and basically sent back out onto the streets, basically to just, here's medication, boom, you're done, and do something, figure it out,
Wow.
And I don't want to ever put his parents down, because I think they did.
No. And that was not my intent in that question.
Right.
My question was who treated him, And why was it not? I mean, and again, you know, you have to be an advocate for your own health. You have to be an advocate for your children's health.
Right. And that's my thing, is that I think they were just older parents and maybe not versed in this and didn't know how to handle this situation. They had never dealt with it. They already had 2 kids that were older, and maybe they just didn't know how to handle it. And so they did the best they could, but it maybe wasn't enough, you know, not for their own fault, but they thought they were doing the right thing. Oh, well, we'll Baker act him and he'll get help. Like, you know, and I mean, he did say that he was given, she did say in that interview that he was given medication, but that then he stopped taking it. So that's the other part of it too, is that a lot of times they don't take these medications.
That's right. It's self, you have to, you know, be self, what is it?
Self-aware.
Be self-aware. You have to be self-motivated to stay on it and to do it. And as a child, and again, my children are in their 20s and 30s, but as a child, they don't understand that taking that medicine every day improves the situation, because they don't understand. And again, no fault at all towards the parents. I don't want anybody to think I'm saying anything against that, but it's just the fact that doctors cut him loose.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Did they, what did they see? What did they see during that time? Did they notice anything? Did they like do a clinical trial? I mean, there's just so many questions about how we got here. You know, how we got to this point.
I don't know that it was actually a 2-year thing. It sounded very brief to me. You know, like he gets Baker acted, he goes in, they give him medication, they let him out in a month or so. That's what it sounded like to me. I could be wrong, I don't know. I'm speaking on things I don't know about. So
again, that's why I asked, did you have any facts on it? Because I just know that I had heard that, and because that wasn't my solitary focus at the time, I was just trying to piece like timelines together. I was more on that side of it. I just didn't really dig into that. But that's in any regard, that's just very sad that you know, for his parents.
Right. He was released the next day. That's allegedly. So
yeah. And you know, and my children, you know, and I had a conversation with my kids about this, and you know, my oldest child is a year older than Wade. And that's why I thought it was so funny when people call me a Wade wife. I'm like, no, really, I'm a Wade mom. If you want to call me anything, I'm not a Wade wife. You know, so I talked to him about this, and I was like, son, you know, what would I do if one of you were in this situation? And obviously not. I have great kids and I'm very blessed, but I was just like, what would I do? I said, I would love you. I would love you with my entire heart, even if the whole world was against you. I would go to war for you.
100%.
And so when you have a mom brain, you know, and again, and I actually told Steve on one of the lives, I said, you know, if this was my child, I would want somebody going as hard for him as we're trying to go for your child.
Right.
Just, you know, because again, the DR, you know, the whole thing about that. And I know there's many years before that happens, but could you imagine waking up every single day knowing that was looming over your head?
Yeah.
And the one thing that I told Courtney when she and I were talking, and she was so upset, I said, Courtney, I have to say this to you, and she'll respond in the comments. I said, all of these calls that we've listened to, if I was sitting in that jail cell and I was innocent, every single call that I started with was like, please help me. I'm innocent. You have to get me out of here.
100%. 100%.
The only person he said that to is his mother.
At the very end, I would be saying that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The only person he said that to is his mother.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's alarming to me. That was kind of like the red flag. It's not a carnival. There are not funnel cakes here. Do not come. That he's not pleading for his innocence. But again, the institutionalization, the way the brain works when you're in that situation and you function better in there. Are you safer in there? You know, there's just a lot. There's just so much that, you know, you could pick apart, and we could talk for, you know, consistently for days, because it just baffles me how the mind works in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But again, at the end of the day, we have 2 people who are no longer with their families because the system also is responsible for failing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, ultimately he is at fault. Ultimately, yes, I agree. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that in future situations, that this should really be upheld and looked into, and it's just sad that it's just, you know, pushed aside. I just,
I agree with you. There's so much that needs to be fixed with our mental health system and the justice system. And there's just so much that, I don't know if we'll ever, excuse me, I don't know if we'll ever get there in our lifetime. But I'd like to know that something changed so that we don't lose people over,
Right.
these were two senseless lives lost.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if there are others responsible, then they need to come to the table too.
Right.
And if they run that street, if they run that to a dead end and there's nobody else, if there's no proof or anything like that, then so be it. But at least look at all of the multifaceted things that are going on here, because there are some strange things. I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but somebody in the accused group was arrested and is in Lee County. I don't know if you saw that in the chat earlier. I did.
I was just like, is that real? Because I know he was arrested a couple months ago. That's real again?
I don't know. They said it was yesterday. So I'm just saying you're dealing with a savory cast, and I say savory because
Right.
Italians love savory things, so that's why I'm using that word. There's a lot of interesting things there. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if listen, I'm going to be careful what I say, right?
Exactly. That's why I said
could talk
savory.
offline.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some truths to some things, but I don't know that it has anything to do with his actions. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. And I will agree with that. But I just, like I said, if they just looked into it, I think that would pacify people with questions.
Yeah.
If the police, and again, I'm not downing the police. I am a police supporter. If any of your husbands or fathers or police officers, I stand behind them 110%. But I think that it was very sloppy police work on this
And
case.
it's, every day we see sloppy police work. So
I could have done a much better job. I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. I could have done a much better job being a lawyer too, just so you know. But my point is I think that when you have a case of this magnitude and you have the crimes that were committed and you have two people who have been taken away from this earth by the hands of another, then you should do your due diligence and have every stone unturned. That's my point. Then there would have never been a conspiracy. There would have never been this hoopla.
Yeah.
I can't say that he wouldn't have gotten the attention of the world, because I don't know if you remember that one guy. His name was Jeremy. He was a biracial young man. He had the piercing blue eyes. What was his name?
Jeremy Meeks.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Was he not beautiful? Now, he was beautiful. I don't care what anybody says. That man was pretty. So, I mean, he had the hoopla behind him. Aaron had the hoopla behind him. The Menendez brothers had the hoopla behind him. Ted Bundy. I mean, we could go on for days. It happens. But I don't think the conspiracy theories, the lack of evidence, I don't think all that would have come about, and it could have been very well prevented had they done their job better. I will say.
Right. And the thing is, what we saw, listen, Allie has said that, they were good lawyers, and, she is from that county and she knows the lawyers, and she said that they're good lawyers. And because we all thought, oh my God, his counsel was terrible. I'm still not convinced that they're good lawyers, but I don't know. I can't speak about what went on behind the scenes. Right. But he was not cooperative with them. He changed lawyers several times. So there's clearly an issue there with him. But I think if we didn't see some of the things they did, like when they whispered this is going to be his last walk before, and
the sleeping,
the
lack of questioning witnesses, the absence of
it wasn't a good look.
remarks. There was just so much. And somebody asking the question in the comments, they said something about the phones, and there is one phone that was missing from a chain of command. I will say that, which is suspicious. That is suspicious. But as far as what I think will happen on appeal, I think he'll be given life. I really believe that he will be given life, and the DP will be removed.
That's what I said too. Eventually, when all is said and done, I think he's got COVID on his side. The fact that things were delayed because of COVID, the law change. I think he was the first person under the new law change to get DP. So, and you got to remember, I mean, had his case not been delayed, he would have fallen into the old law. So I definitely think, and if you, I think it was 82% when I looked it up, because this is months ago now. I think it was like 82% do get it changed. So I agree. I think that's what will end up happening, but I don't think that's what he wants.
No, it's not, because it will not work in his favor, because somebody will take him out.
Right.
Because he will not be remanded to protective custody once the hoopla wears down. He's not anyone of that credentialing. He's not credulous where he will be considered in protective custody. Right now, he's in protective custody because of the hoopla around it and where he's at. So once he gets transferred, that will be
down, which it will. It will die down.
Absolutely.
He will no longer be considered a public figure, and nobody will give two shits about Wade Wilson and whether or not he gets shanked. So
you said it. I wasn't going to, but that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But so yes, I do believe that will be like downplayed. Yeah. But there was something else interesting, and I actually, if you talk to Allie, I'm sure she's been advised not to talk to us, but if you do, I want to know, because I was told, and I saw a report about it, but again, we know how fake news is that 2 of the jurors were Spanish speaking and had to have an interpreter.
That was true. Yeah.
Okay. So can you imagine trying to interpret into a secondary language all of this material to make that decision? I can't believe the defense signed off on those witnesses, Christy.
Me neither. If that was
that's where I see a failure.
Nuts.
That was the first part that I saw a failure.
But,
and then as it continued to go along, and like I said, the absence of an opening statement, had Hollander, or what was the other guy's name? Shirley, had they presented in their opening argument that there was the potential that the drugs he took were FLACCA, he could have used that in his closing argument. But if you notice in the closing argument, she slapped her hand down and said evidentiary support, because he didn't introduce it in the opening arguments. Why did they not do a toxicology screen on him to see what was in his system? They did not do a toxicology.
I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
So again, the sloppy work that was thrown together, and what really grinded my gears, let me just tell you, we're talking about trauma.
I don't think he had a good defense, honestly. I don't think he had a good defense. I think at minimum, if they would have been better at their job, they would have maybe gotten DP off the table. But I think the result would have been the same. That's my opinion. But anyway, I'm sorry.
I agree. But when you have people up there, and this one, it just sticks out to me so bad, Christy, and I'm just going to, every time I talk about the trial, we had a detective up there who found the second victim, and out of respect for, I'm not, whatever. And he mentioned in his freaking testimony that he saw one vulture, and it led him there. Yeah, now listen, I live in Georgia. They live in Florida. We have dead gators. We have armadillos. We have deer. We have turtles. We have all kinds of deceased wildlife. And you might have one vulture. Had I seen 20 vultures, that might have sparked my interest. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One drove you there. There's just so much.
What do you think actually you think that they had some sort of, because I know her body was found before he confessed.
Yes.
So,
and again, these are the conspiracy theories. This is what this is all fed off of, is that the tire tracks in the grass and other places did not match the vehicle he was driving.
Right.
So if we remember back to the O.J. Simpson trial, and Johnny Cochran's, and I've said this on Courtney's Live, so I'm repeating myself, his favorite, or the thing that we remember most about the O.J. Simpson trial that Johnny Cochran said was what?
Well, he doesn't fit. You must have quit.
That's where all the conspiracy is born from. How can you be, he wasn't in 2 separate cars. Yeah. So what other car was there, if any? So again, if the police work had been done appropriately, they could dispel that.
Yeah.
But then they asked the girl, who's the only person that I think told the absolute 110% truth on the stand, was the DNA person. Mm-hmm. And when they asked her, did you collect DNA from under the car? No, we didn't. We collected a swab off the bumper. Well, was it tested? No, it was not. Why? That could have dispelled everything. Because if you hit a deer, you've got DNA up underneath your car, do you trade that sucker? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, there were definitely things that were questionable, and that's what, like you said, where I think these conspiracy people are going with it and why they're still holding on to that. I wouldn't, because I feel the way I feel, and you know, unless you give me some real hard shit, I'm still going where I'm going.
Well, and me as well. But again, that's where all this is stemmed from, was their inability to. I mean, and again, in any other trial, you have to prove the evidence, and they just didn't do it. They just stopped. They thought they had it.
I don't think
it reflects me back to the other case in Florida that literally was a social media storm, which was Casey Anthony.
Yeah,
they weren't having another Casey Anthony. I'm telling you.
Right.
And you know, so my thing is just do your damn work. I'm sorry. Yeah. And people think I'm defending him when I say these things, and I'm not defending him.
No, we're talking about, you know,
I'm talking about the absence of what should have been done. Right. It's a totally different thing. You know, again, so many things could come into that in the normal world. So if that would have happened in, you know, I don't know if you've seen the case about the little boy in Georgia that the mother just went to trial, and he was 18 months old, and her and the grandmother were charged. Well, I lived that. I lived here. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But the police work was on point, Christy. The police work was on point. There was no question. There was no sliver of any doubt.
Right.
Because they were connected to that little boy. You know, everybody in the community was connected to that little boy. That was our little boy. And had they done that with the victims there, this would not have become I call it an epidemic. It's an epidemic. This is a very big thing. And then you have this girl who comes in, and like Amanda said, from the get-go. And when I tell you, when all that went down with Courtney and her and the group, and I'm glad some fences are being mended here, I told them I'm going to talk to Amanda, because I felt like I just needed to tell her what I was seeing, you know, and I wanted to kind of save her from herself, kind of thing.
Yeah. Somebody did.
I would have done for anybody. If I saw you on a live and I felt like, I would be like, Christy, you're my friend. I know we've never met in person, but that's the one thing this case has done, is it's brought a very eclectic group of people into a very big, broad friendship. We have respect for one another. We bounce things off. We might have had differences of opinions, but you know what? We respected those differences of opinions. So that's the one good thing that came from all this, right?
I say this all the time. I'm like, you know, I built so many great friendships and connections, and you know, it's nice to be able to work with other women, right? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm not trying to do better than anybody, and nobody's like, I feel like that's the people I want to be surrounded by, is like people that we can like talk and like, you know, debate or whatever, and have open discussions, and not be told like, oh, you're looking for clout, or, you know, you don't have all the facts. Your information is not accurate. You're just spewing bullshit. Like, you know, that's the part that bothers me. But I was saying before, much earlier, that's like 99% of the people that I've encountered on here. So,
and then you have the ones who are the drama llamas.
Right. Exactly. And that's the tiny little 1%, which
right.
means this much to me. So
exactly. I'm not on camera, so I can't show you what it means to me. I'm just being
Is it smaller than this?
more than what? Show me one more time. How much is it?
But, you know, Villa she said, and she brought up a point, Wade had already given them the approximate location. So where they were searching the area. So they were searching that area because of that. So I do remember he did give them some information. I'm trying to remember, but that was all. So his dad came first, and then he spoke to the police, but he had spoken prior to that. No, he hadn't, right? He hadn't given them any location. I can't remember now.
And I will throw this at you. And again, this is just where people's brains can go left.
Right.
In the videotaped interview that was done when he was brought into the police department, the woman asked him, and if you guys can fact check me all day long, I promise you I don't say anything like assumptions or allegations. She said to him, when you were on your way to Christine's house, did you cross a bridge? And he said, I don't know. She said, you don't know if you crossed a bridge? He said, no, my girl usually drives and I don't pay attention to stuff like that. She said, you don't pay attention to landmarks? And he's like, no. Then you go to the recorded interview where they're like, well, can you tell us where she is? And he said, I don't know. I'll have to take you there. I'll have to look at landmarks.
Right.
Then you look at his confession, and again, this is where the conspiracy theories come in. And he said that there was things that happened to the second victim that were not true. Now, I'm playing devil's advocate here. If you are doing a coerced confession, if you pepper things in there that aren't true, then in that person's mind, then it's all thrown out. So then you had people that were like, well, he said this and this is true, but he said this and this is not true. So which is true and which isn't? Right. So that's what spiraled this all out of them. And I honestly believe when he was going to take them there, again, he said he wasn't from the area. He didn't know the area. The cop testified on the stand that you'd have to know that development was back there to go there, which was conflicting. I think he just wanted a hamburger and some French fries and a McFlurry.
Oh, he sure did.
He wasn't. He was going to take them on a wild goose chase. I truly believe that.
He was totally. He was so
That's
stupid.
The manipulation. That was the manipulation.
He's so stupid. He couldn't even get his hamburger. He's so dumb. At least not once did he say, well, when you bring me my burger, I'll give you the information.
Right. He said, I'll have to take you there. I think it was going to be a wild goose chase. And that's just my gut instinct. I'm just saying.
Yep. He didn't even try. And you know what? It doesn't fucking matter because they already knew and they were playing his ass.
Exactly. Which that's why we were laughing when we watched it. But at the end of the day, you could tell that he knew he was going away. He knew he was,
and he knows that he's got nothing on this appeal other than the fact that he may get it changed from DP to life. That he knows he's got nothing. He knows there's nothing on this appeal that's going to change this sentence.
You've got people out here like her convincing him that he does have a chance.
Right.
Does that make him,
Another problem, Tam, a lot of these people are not even from this country and don't even understand our laws.
Exactly.
Don't understand anything.
Exactly.
Like that Jennifer or whatever, Kassarian, whatever the hell her name is, writing this whole freaking thing. First of all, you're smart. You could have come up with better things that she put out there. Yes, some of the things she put out there, yes. But a lot of the stuff that she put out there was things that could have been proven and taken right off the table immediately. So now she's just gone completely Looney Tunes, going live and everything. And
what did you see the receipts Courtney dropped?
No.
Oh, it was messages in her inbox from that girl asking to please be connected to Wade.
See, I knew all along. I know that.
As soon as those calls came out, she immediately flipped on him.
I knew that woman all along was just for the D. She was all about the D.
None of them can get it. I think it's
ridiculous. I never seen anything like it. I think honestly, that's why this case is going to be one of these cases we talk, like, we're not going to talk about it forever, but we're going to always talk back about it.
We're going to reference it. Yep.
Because it's like, it's not believable. It's not even believable what's going on.
It's like a mini series. And again, that sucks because these two women are gone.
Right.
So it's not funny. It's not, it's, I would tell those girls because,
he's a circus. He's a joke. He's the monkey in the circuit. That's what it is. He's the joke.
When Sparrow said, I spent 80 hours on this, Courtney was like, Tamara spends 80 hours in a day. I mean, again, because it was just every day it was something new and it was just fascinating. And I was like, well, what is this? And I'd have to run it down. It was like literally doing a jigsaw puzzle and you get to the very end and two pieces are missing.
Right.
And then you have to figure out where the pieces were. And we just became completely like, it was just something every single day. And I have said that I'm going to write a book on this and and I'm going to name it Pretty Privilege because that's all this is.
That's 1,000%
all this is.
If he didn't look the way he looked, nobody would give two fucks or would have ever turned and looked at this case ever again.
And, and Steve actually challenged that to me on one of the very first lives he came on that I was on. He said, well, there's a guy 5 counties over that's saying he's innocent too, and he's ugly as a bug, and nobody's looking into it. Well, I did.
I know you. I remember you said.
I did. And then I found another one in Rayford that is with him, and I started advocating for him as well. So if that comment changed my perception and made me look at other people that are saying the same thing and running their cases down,
right?
If everybody did that, and I'm talking about the laws and the way things are, obviously we don't write our judicial abilities, but the Amber Alert law came into fruition because of a child that was kidnapped. Amber Alert was named for Amber.
Yeah.
So with the power of the people and as much notoriety and as much traction as this has gotten, and if people went and said, listen, something's got to change, that's the voice that makes changes.
Right.
So again, could something positive come out of this? Yes, it very well could. Yeah. But instead of feeding into the drama, you feed into the problem or the root cause. Then, so I've written up, I can't even tell you, so many dissertations is what I call them. It's just dissertations, I guess, to present, because I want to know, I want to know how this happened. I want to know how this happened and how we got to this point. Obviously, I'm not a resident of Florida. I've looked into Georgia to see if, this is a thing here, and it is. So do you start in your own town? Do you start in your own backyard? What do you do? Right. What do you do to prevent it? Because obviously they're not, is my point. It's just it's too much of a business. And I hate to say that, but I'm just going to be honest. When you go to jail and you pay bail, you never get that money back.
Right.
It's a business.
Right.
And how many times do they arrest one person to get all that bail money before they slap them with a suit to send them off to prison? Many, many times from where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying there's so many things that need to be overhauled here.
It's all a business. Everything is a business. Every single thing is a business.
Yes. And do you know that the amount that they have to pay for them to be on DR is just insane?
Oh, I know. And that's why I said I personally don't believe in DR. And not because I don't believe in someone getting DR. I don't believe in it because I think it's a complete waste of taxpayer dollars. And the people sit on there too long. And I personally think they should go into Gen Pop and they should just deal with it, and whatever be will be. So I don't believe in it. I actually think that DR should be completely abolished. DP.
I agree.
I think it should just be off the table completely. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I don't think, the only time I think that it would work is if it does involve a child and it's done immediately. It's done immediately. Mm-hmm. No fucking appeals, no 15 years in prison feeding these mother effers. Just tomorrow you die.
Because you can't cure that. That is something that has been proven that you cannot cure. You cannot treat it. Even if you do chemical C, the thoughts, the intrusive thoughts are still there. And I just have to address this comment, and I never address comments because I have a thick skin. I really don't care what you think about me. But she said, wow, are you retired or what? How do you have as much time on your hand? Actually, I am retired. I don't have my grandchildren. I don't keep my grandchildren because I live in a different state from them, and my children are grown. And this is my hobby. And I am retired.
We need people like you, because there is somebody out there that needs somebody to advocate for them, that is innocent, that deserves the time spent on them, because they are innocent. People get accused every day of things they didn't do. So we do need people that are willing to advocate for real people that deserve it.
And again, statistically in Florida, because I do my research, do you know that 86% of the things that are taken to appeal are overturned? And just like Marcellus Williams, and I will bring his name up, I signed petitions, I called the governor's office, I did everything. And do you know they put that man to D because the governor was the prosecutor who prosecuted him, Christie, and he would not admit he was wrong. And that man was executed with DNA evidence that exonerated him.
I couldn't believe it. It's such an injustice.
Yes. So for every Wade Wilson, there might be 3 Marcellus Williams.
Right.
And you don't know until you do the research.
Right.
So
And sometimes you have to do the research and then you find out, you know what, I was wrong. And then, you know, hopefully there's going to be the one that you were right and maybe you can help that person. So
I implore you, if it was somebody in your family and you knew they were innocent, would you want the world to turn their back on them? I'm just, and again, we spoke a minute ago about my brother-in-law being murdered. And that happened in 2016, February of 2016. And in December of 2016, my former brother-in-law, who was a police officer, a firefighter, a 911 operator, murdered his wife. And that is the father to my niece and nephew. So not only have I sat on the side of the victim, I have sat on the side of the accused. And the only reason that I sat on that side with him is because my niece could not believe her father was capable of such a crime. I, however, knew he was guilty of sin, and we are on Dateline. If you want to look it up, message me and I'll send you the episode. However, I have been on both sides of that coin. And interestingly enough, my brother-in-law, who was the perpetrator, his grandparents were murdered 20 years before that. So he was a victim of a random wanderer walking up in his grandparents' backyard the day before Easter Sunday and taking their lives to steal their car. And then 15 years later, he committed the crime. So when I tell you that I have vast knowledge from being the empathetic side, being the accused side, seeing what my niece and nephew went through because their father was found guilty of this, they were victims as well. So I understand every single side of this. So when I came into this, I didn't come in shallow-minded. I didn't come in thirst trapping. I didn't do anything like that. I saw a trial on Law and Criminal, whatever that channel is. What is it, Christy? Law and Crime or whatever. Watched the trial, saw it was a complete farce. It was a joke from both sides, from the witnesses to the judge to everybody. Started digging, found connections, freaked out, literally. Changed my name on TikTok, everything. I'm like, they're not coming after me. These are high-powered people. So there were a lot of linkages and things like that. It had nothing to do with him. People love to spin me into that. And I'm like, no. I was the voice of reason on those calls. Again, I supported Courtney because Courtney had a physical, and I'm not being ugly there. I mean, she had a physical attachment to this man.
Right, exactly.
She believed in her friend. And I commend her on that because she went hard for him. And when she realized she was wrong, she said she was wrong. And he turned on her. And can you imagine that betrayal? That you went so hard for somebody that you cared about and you truly believed in, and they turned on you like a viper like that.
Right.
And then you faced down the world for them. Like, I can't even imagine her feeling. And she was hurt. Y'all, she was hurt. And she's a human. So a lot of people like to take a lot of flack out on Courtney, but I don't know if you've noticed that most of the tide is changing with her. And that's great.
Right.
Because she was a target for a very long time. And I just felt like, I can help you. I can help you kind of thwart this and explain it in a different way. So don't think I'm defending him because that is not the case.
Right.
And I actually did write him 2 times in Lee County Jail, and it very well might be on some of the next
emails are coming up. Your emails,
but I did it through PinMates, so I don't know if that scans into it.
Are you going to be on Patreon at all?
No, absolutely not. It was more of, I have information. I need to ask questions. Like, you have people out here fighting for you and trying to help you. And I was kind of on the fence about, I needed questions answered. And then when I saw the very first calls that were put out with Mila, when he was first arrived, I blocked him immediately. Because at that point, that's when my tide started turning. That's when I started looking a different way. So again, it was just questions that I had from watching the trial.
Right.
Like, I understand why you didn't speak, because if your lawyers aren't representing you on the story that you're wanting them to defend you on, I understand why you're being quiet, but I have questions. And it was just because I had no idea this was like a hoopla thing. Like, again, I wasn't on the social media side of that. I went on TikTok and went through my FYP, and I was like, oh, they think he's cute. I wasn't paying attention to anything else.
Right.
I didn't know he was getting 4,000, 5,000 messages a day. And I think it's hysterical now to watch them. But, I told Courtney, I said, it very well might pop up on there. And I'm not, I had questions and I needed answers because it was, like I said, it was a puzzle to me. I needed to understand all the moving parts. And again, yes, I'm retired and I have time to do stuff like that. Oh my gosh. And I did what I did. And, again, do I step back and say, would I have handled that differently? I don't think that I would have, because I wanted to know. And again, if more people were inquisitive and they challenged people in power and they challenged, because had that been my family member, me and Cape Coral Police, me and Fort Myers Police, we would have went at it. I'm just saying.
Right.
If I would have looked at that evidence going into trial, I was like, you realize you're giving them grounds for reasonable doubt, right?
Right. And that's the truth of the matter.
That's the truth of the matter. Yeah.
Because, all you have to do is do that. And
you have to have one person, just one person
that has that
cannot make a decision. And it's a complete, and I believe the word mistrial was thrown out a lot. And, that they couldn't bring things in that happened that were relative to it, because again, that's the law. And, had they been able to bring that stuff in there, it'd have been a cut and dry, but you're talking about somebody's life decided in 3 days.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a very gross negligence of justice. I don't think the judge should have been on the case, just between us and everybody in this room. I think he should have recused himself. There were many conflicts of interest there. I don't think it should have been held in the venue that it was held in. And
I do think he should have got a change of venue.
And I don't think the judge should have been there. He had a conflict of interest, a direct conflict of interest, Christy.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth with that because, just from some of the things that Allie told me, I kind of went back and forth with it. She was like, she said to me he was a very fair judge. And there was a reason why he was assigned to his cases. He had handled multiple cases. And I do think that he was very fair. I think he was actually very patient with the games that Wade played.
I was going to say tolerable.
Yeah.
Patience is a good verb, but I was going to say tolerable.
No, tolerable is better. I'm not a good person with words.
But when you have, and I'm just going to say this, I'm just going to say it, I'm putting it out there, I'm taking a risk here. When you have a written document from the accused naming specific people that are involved in a situation, I'm doing it very high level, and in that list of people that's given a name, and you are set on a board of chairmen with this person and you have personal affiliation with them, you should have recused yourself right then, because that opened a door for conspiracy.
I get what you're saying. But I do think, and that's the thing, it's a small town area. That's why I just thought a change of venue, because, everybody knows everybody. Right. It's like my small town. Like, I think about my small town and I'm like, if something happened here and we had to have a court session here, like when something happens here, you have the Queens County, right? So it's all of Queens, which is very big. So if a crime happens here, we're not going to court right here in Queens. We're going to the Queens court, which is 20 minutes away. And so it's different in that sense, because it's not a different venue, but it's nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody knows, like you're talking about, like Mila's spa was literally down the block from the courthouse. Like, I don't get that. That I didn't get. I didn't understand why he didn't have a change of venue. But
somebody said, oh, please, the judge was fair. I'm not saying he wasn't fair. I'm saying that the conflict of interest that has come to light leads to the conspiracy theories. Please don't twist my words. I'm not saying it was fair. I just said he was tolerable. I didn't say he wasn't fair. I'm just saying that I think to prevent all of this, had he recused himself with the connection and had it been moved to a different venue, he wouldn't have been the judge on the case. And then this could have been nipped in the bud and not become an issue. So please understand, that's my point of view. I'm not saying the judge was not fair. Never did I say that. I said it was a conflict of interest which speared conspiracy theories. I'm just pretty much explaining where all this came from. Because when I looked into it and into the state attorney general, they all had conflict of interest. It should have been moved to a different venue, which means there would have been a different judge.
Somebody had said who asked for a change of venue. It would be his defensive attorneys, and I believe they ask and they were denied?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't remember. Was it denied?
I think they did, and I think it was denied. I'm almost positive that he brought up a change of venue in his letters, and whether or not they actually presented it, I don't know. But
yeah,
I don't know. But listen. I appreciate you being on.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to jump off very soon, but let's discuss what other cases you're looking into, because I'd love to. You have a good perspective on things. And so we're doing Micah Miller. So I'm going to probably do that Friday.
And I'm from South Carolina, so I know that whole little route down there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I do.
I forgot about that. So have you been following it?
Right, that's right. So there's several. There's Kanika Jenkins.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
And then there's Josh Altersberger, who's I'm working with now. However, he has the difference between Josh and anybody else that I've ever dealt with is he admits full guilt. But again, it's a failure of the system from him being a child. And so he's also going up for a resentencing because he fell under that same kind of rule that Wade did as far as the timing of the DP. But that is who I deal with in Rayford. And I will say he's full of remorse. He prays for his victim every night. He prays for their family. He is not he does not act anything like the other one. But I have a whole list, and you mentioned it the other night, Kendrick, the boy that was found in the school mat.
Yes,
you're live. He's on my list. He's on my list. Jessica Chambers is on my list. I think there's more people involved with that. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, so I'd love to have you come on again when we do. I have something called a pod club. Yes, pod club. I don't even know what pod club. And I would love for you to come on again with us and discuss some of these cases or one of these cases, whatever you want to do. So we can kind of go back and forth. Because like I said, you have really good perspective. Everybody loves listening to you. Your little Southern accent. But it's great to listen to you and get your perspective on it. And you do a lot of the work. I every time I went in Courtney's live and I heard you talk, I just loved you. I was like, I just like the way she speaks. And listen, everybody doesn't have to agree with what I say or what Tam says. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that anybody says, but it's just different perspectives, right? It's different perspectives. And what Tam was trying to say with Wade's case is just if these things had been addressed, maybe there wouldn't have left any doubt in people's minds. That's what she's trying to say. Or I don't want to speak for you, but
you're saying it exactly right. Had they been handled appropriately, then we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here. Right. Exactly. I think we may still have been here because
absolutely. Because it's interesting. I mean, not interesting. Let me rephrase that because that's what got Bunny in trouble. It's perplexing. It's
the white privilege. It's the whole,
which is crazy. But yeah, I just, and again, everybody's like, is she pro Wade? No. I'm not pro Wade.
Right, exactly.
Anti DP, and I'm blown away by the lack of consistencies here. That's all. And that doesn't mean I'm trying to prove him innocent because I know he's not. Let me say it again. I know he's not. It's just for future reference. Maybe things should be looked at differently. Just saying. I mean, just advocating. I mean, it's just
that's the whole thing. It's good to play devil's advocate because when you're really digging deep and you're getting into something, you should be looking at both sides of it. You shouldn't just be looking at it from one, like tunnel vision. You should be looking at it from both sides and playing devil's advocate and saying, well, maybe, excuse me, Cass, you're here for Tam? My own mod is here for you. You believe this shit? You're fucking abandoning me already, Tam. Like,
and I'm like, God, it's like, we've been talking for a while, but it's just something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and that's great. And me too. I'm really into the true crime aspect of it. And each person brings a different aspect to the table, a different, attribute to the table. So that's why I love having people on my platform that, some people will say like, why would you let other people come on your platform and, and not take over or whatever, or talk on your platform? It's like, because if I just look into the phone and talk to myself for an hour or 2 hours, how boring. Like, I like to have other people on the platform and speak to them and discuss things with them and get other people's points of view. And then we can bounce off each other,
Well, I can guarantee you'll never see this girl go live by herself, because that's just not my job. But we'll have to add my family members to your case so we can talk about how that went down as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was also very, and took 3 years to get an arrest. So, there's just, and again, coming from that aspect of it and me living through this, and nobody should have to go through 3 murders in their lifetime, in their family, you guys. I've been 3 times. I'm like, okay, 3rd time, we're done. There's going to be no more. Yeah. But seeing how that all played out real time, being in the victim and the perpetrator's fields, it's really bizarre. And maybe that's why this is a hobby of mine. And I use hobby very loosely. It's something that interests me because of what I've lived through. So I take all this from personal experience, not just somebody who's, and I'm not saying that against you, Christy, because I know what you do is great and what Griselda does is great, but I'm just not coming on here. And again, I did this all behind the scenes, you guys, for a long time before I even came forward. But it's just because of the position that I've been put in as a victim. As an advocate.
Different experiences.
I have different experiences. I have real-time, tangible experiences where I sat through court on both sides of that. And I can tell you it's very heart-wrenching to sit in a courtroom with the victim's children, just like Diane's children and Christine's family, and look at them and know that the person that is the reason that their loved ones are not here anymore. That is the most heart-wrenching, horrible thing that I have ever done. But again, I was there to support my family who believed in his innocence. And even though I did not, I had to sit across the courtroom from people who, very hard. It was very hard. And I understand everything Allie said, because I'm sorry. And they don't want to hear you're sorry. Sorry doesn't bring somebody back. Sorry doesn't take away what happened to that person. And that all that anger and hurt and heartbreak is just kind of expelled on you, because you are part of that family. Right. And I understand when she said that, man, I lost it. Like, I literally lost it and broke down, because I know that feeling. Mm-hmm. And you walk out holding your head low. But then I also know, sitting on the other side of the courtroom from the family of the woman who took my brother-in-law away from me.
Right.
I never blamed them. I didn't look at them in shame. Those were children. That was that woman's children and her family. They didn't do it. She did. So it's all about perspective.
Yep. Yep.
So if I can enlighten anybody, if one person takes something great away from this conversation, then my job was done. Just saying. Okay. So, but I'm jumping off because it's after midnight and I need to go to sleep. But I love you so much, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Yes, we will talk soon.
All right, good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. All right, bye.
All right, guys, I'm going to be hopping off soon, too. Before I hop off, I just wanted to just reiterate, because I saw a lot of new people in here. A lot of people that are following me for the first time, and then also people that I have not seen on my other live for quite some time. Honestly, I have not been able to get the amount of people that I've had in my my other account, so something's definitely off there. But I just wanted to reiterate, please go to my main page, True Crime Christy. There's no backup at the end. So it's the same account like this, but there's no backup. It's the account that has 16.3 thousand followers. And it is where I will be going live most of the time. That's where I go live. So please follow that account, and please hit the bell and follow all. This way you get notifications when I'm going live. And tomorrow night we will be going live at 7 p.m. Eastern time with Devin Perkins' mom, Victoria. If you want to know about Devin's story, go to savedevin.com, or also go to my TikTok page, the other one, and you will see some videos about Devin. And then on Friday night, we will be discussing Micah Miller. And on my other page, I do have something called a pod club, where once a week we try to discuss a case. So thank you guys so much for being here. Please go to my other page. I think on this one as well, the Linktree link is in the bio for my YouTube channel. Please go there, because I will eventually transition off of TikTok. It's not going to happen right away, but it will happen. So thank you guys so much. I love you guys. I love everybody's energy. It's such a beautiful, space. Having you guys in the chat, seeing all of you guys all the time, the same names, and just seeing the support that you guys give. And I just love you guys. I really do. And honestly, this is the best part of this whole thing. If I had never made a single dollar, this is the best part of it. It just meeting all you guys. I just love you guys. So anyway, thank you, Bayo. Thank you, Amanda, for coming. And we will be live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Love you guys. Good night.